Hey everybody, I'm going to try my best to keep this video within 30 minutes, but I'm going to be sharing some information and connecting a few dots here to try and present a rounded picture of what's going on in our world, in our lives, how we're being manipulated by the media and the government, both of which are serving the same power entities of power who have a collective agenda. Okay, we're talking about, they call themselves the coalition. There are varied interests within that coalition, varied agendas, but they've united together because commonly they share the one common theme is that they are united in their eugenics, they're united in their depopulation, they're united in their corporate agendas of staying out of prison, avoiding criminal charges for the damages they're doing to us and life and our planet, being at liberty to continue causing damage and breaking the law, being at liberty to continue earning profits, being at liberty to continue robbing us, depleting Earth's resources, destroying our planet, even right down to fulfilling, horrible prophecies like, for example, Revelations. It's a multi-pronged attack. The attack isn't coming from just one source, and there's lots of witting and unwitting people involved in that. I think we shouldn't assume that everybody who's involved in the powers that be that are oppressing us, that everybody involved in that is fully on side with that. I think we have to always make room for amnesty and always make room for forgiveness. People can be trapped in situations that they don't really want to be a part of, they don't really support, but they have other people to think of, like their families, their children, who are under direct threat. We have to make these kind of allowances, and that's why, we need to act as responsible, compassionate people in as much as we possibly can. But it's very difficult to maintain that level of compassion unless we are aware, unless we understand fully what we are dealing with, who the enemy really is, and in what ways we are being attacked. Because we are being attacked. This is a multi-level attack supporting a multi-level agenda. So, first of all, we have MSNBC here, one of America's main media platforms, and they're sharing this story about Donald Trump, the voting, postal vote in particular, and there's great consternation because, the people of America were informed that, this is what the Trump campaign, Matt Woking, Deputy Communications Director for the Trump campaign, tweeted on Thursday afternoon. Breaking: FBI finds military mail-in ballots discarded in Pennsylvania. 100% of them were cast for President Trump. Democrats are trying to steal the election. Okay, that was a press release tweeted by, from David Freed, the US Attorney, linking to a press release from David Freed, the US Attorney for the Middle East District of Pennsylvania. Freed said his office had begun an inquiry into reports of potential issues with a small number of mail-in ballots at the Luzerne County Board of Elections. At this point, we can confirm that a small number of military ballots were discarded. Investigators have recovered 9 ballots at this time. Some of those ballots can be attributed to specific voters and some cannot. All 9 ballots were cast for presidential candidate Donald Trump, the statement said. Freed's office put out a revised statement hours after the first, saying the number of Trump ballots was actually 7. Okay? 2 of the discarded ballots had been resealed inside their appropriate envelopes by Luzerne election staff prior to recovery by the FBI, and the contents of those 2 ballots are unknown, the updated statement said. And then the MSN, because they, it's highly unusual for US attorneys to publicly announce they've opened an inquiry and blah, 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 playing the game of opposition as they play when, you know, we know they're one hand serving the same body. So what we have here is this is like shock tactics of fake news. Most people, especially the Trump supporters, are going to pick up on this, and the far right alternative media pick up on this immediately. It's an arrow for Trump's bow, isn't it, of worrying about the postal vote, because obviously Trump is worried about the postal vote because he hasn't got the same control. Corporations that he serves do not have the same control over the postal vote as they do over the voting machines, and where they're going to place them, and how long it's going to take people to queue up, and blah, 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 you see. But with COVID here, lots of people scared by the media campaign, the medical viral xenophobia, well, they don't want to go out queuing in lines and putting themselves at risk. So obviously the postal vote is going to increase massively. Lots and lots of people are going to be relying on the postal vote. So therefore Trump is scared, because that means it's a vote run by we the people. The post office belongs to the American people. It's a nationalised service, and the counting of the postal vote is performed by the American people. It's a nationalised service, and generally speaking, the American people, the workforce, are a lot more honest and law-abiding and righteous and conscientious than the corporations, you see, that organise the machines and collect the data from the machines, that even can hack the machines if they want. So Trump has been attacking the post office. Oh, but then suddenly we've got this story about that tells us that 100% were cast for Trump. Then we find that no, that was a lie. Actually, there was only 9 mail voting ballots. Only 7 of them supported Trump. Obviously, they'd all been opened. 2 were resealed. We don't know the contents of them at all. Strange. Oh, and some of the people that were voting, that had voted for Trump, hadn't, well, they couldn't actually be traced. So they managed to trace some of the voters, but they hadn't traced a couple of the voters. So what's that? Is that signifying that somehow people are using the ballot, mail-in ballot, that really shouldn't be voting? You know, there's a number of avenues in which this story can be exploited. But generally speaking, it supports Trump's rhetoric about the postal vote. And this is just part of the shenanigans that are going on, that then does lead us to believe that, look, this kind of twisted news, because at the end of the day, anybody could, you know, do this, that was working within the post office, who supports Trump, could easily have done this to set up this whole narrative now that has made even mainstream news, and that's explosively hitting the right-wing alternative news channels. Anybody could have done that. And it seems strange that people seeking to steal the election would just discard these votes ready for people to find, that they wouldn't actually destroy them. And what, 9 votes? And if they really were seeking to steal the election, then why, what about the 2 sealed envelopes then? That we don't know who they were voting for. So, you know, this whole story seems very, very fishy to me. But we need to understand, it's part of the manipulation. It is a distraction. It's a show. We're dealing with a reality TV show star here, literally. It's a show. It's a distraction. These politicians, they're supposed to be running the country. They're supposed to be, you know, maintaining the economy, law and order, upholding the peace, dealing with issues of national security. But instead we've got this mad, crazy show. And meanwhile, there's this going on. We've got three, you know, our planet is in a seriously bad way. We've got 3 ongoing nuclear melt-throughs that nobody's taking any notice of. Dana has been at this for years. Mystery of dying seabirds, more starving birds found in Bering Strait region for 4th consecutive year. This is July 24th, 2020. Dolphins, seals, whales are all turning up, starving. The plankton's dying. Radioactive isotopes flooding into the Pacific Ocean like nobody's business. Plankton, our seas, through plankton, produce, what is it, something like 2/3 of Earth's oxygen. Nobody's bothered about it. These corporations aren't pumping investments, all the trillions that they have, stored where? That they've stolen off us, okay, stored where? Oh, on the Queen's Crown offshore tax haven territories. Absolutely packed with trillions and trillions and trillions. But there's no money to sort out Fukushima. There's no money. They don't want to invest in cleaning our planet up. Instead, what they want to invest in is, you know, people like Bill Gates with his depopulation agendas. You know, as Damo Pelham says here, when a guy who has enough money to end world hunger, end poverty, regenerate the soils and clean the oceans, instead chooses to pump his money into releasing GMO mosquitoes, blocking out the sun, creating fake meat and producing toxic vaccines, you have to ask yourself why? Why? Because these people don't care about life, they don't care about climate change, but they're happy to use the issues in order to further their agenda. They're happy to create news, to, you know, create events like this, even this as trivial as that, a few ballot papers, in order to, you know, push forward their narratives. Who supports Bill Gates? Trump, he's right behind him. So yes, they will use climate change. You know, I've covered this in a previous video. European colonizers killed so many Native Americans that it changed the global climate, researchers say. This was from February 2019. This is full on eugenicist depopulation propaganda, all coming out of University London College, who in this article are literally celebrating the fact that European settlers from 1490 something, 1492, killed 56 million indigenous people over 100 years in South, Central and North America, causing large swathes of farmland to be abandoned and reforested. Apparently, you know, by 1600s, oh, we were going through the little ice age because it had actually lowered Earth's climate temperature. That is what this whole article is about. And as I've said in my previous video, there's not one mention in it of any jot of remorse or regret or lamentation about the murder of 56 million people. 56 million. I think Britain's population at that time, the whole of Europe didn't have a population probably of more than 10, 20 million. They caused so much death and disease. It changed the global climate, they're claiming. But it didn't, because we know from previous studies that equally studied the ice cores that no, this climate change came about because of massive major volcanic eruptions that caused dust to rise into the air and caused the equivalent of, you know, a kind of nuclear winter. which is what you can get with massive major volcanic eruptions. So much dust goes into the air, it blocks out the sun, Earth's climate cooled. But they're claiming, oh no, we've restudied the ice cores now. Never mind the previous studies on ice cores that proved it was volcanic ash. No, it was actually killing 56 million indigenous people. UK London College, okay? University College. And that's what he's riding on. That those kind of studies are what men like him, with agendas like him, the 1%, that is exactly what they're using to justify their insane, crazy plans. Now, this brings me to Britain. You see, unlike America, where the post office is still a national service, and the vote, the counting and running of the postal vote is also a national service through the post office that no politician has any control over. Oh no, in Britain, since these Tories have got into government, a succession of them, from David Cameron to Theresa May to Boris Johnson today, all three of them, they have privatised, this Tory party have privatised our national post office. They've sold off all the public buildings, all the real estate. Where has that money gone? You know, the local post office where I live, and in so many places in Britain, we haven't got a local post office. Oh, now it's in a shop. You have to go into a little supermarket to go and do your postal business. All the real estate has just been swiped from us. We've got nothing to show for it. But why weren't British media on the ball then? Why weren't they asking questions about the seriousness of selling off the postal service that is now in corporate hands, who we know all interests tie in directly with Tories, private corporations, who knows who, owns our postal service now and runs and manages it. And equally, private corporations run and control, manage and count our postal votes. Imagine how serious that is. Imagine if America was now in that situation where Trump's supporting corporate pals actually own your postal service. And not only that, they actually own, run and manage the managing and counting of the postal vote. And that's not open to abuse when, you know, like Britain at the moment, they need a landslide win for Boris to get his criminal no-deal Brexit, that the British public were told repeatedly there would be a deal. Apparently he had an oven-ready deal, is what he said during the general election. Yeah, the Good Friday Agreement was safe. But no, he wants to scrap the Good Friday Agreement now. No, there is no deal. We're going to pull out. He's going to surround Parliament with military. Martial law on the horizon for British people. And you look at the evidence, you know, in 2019 the postal vote doubled. Now, if that was this year, 2020, December 2020, you could understand it. Well, yeah, a lot of people have stayed at home because, you know, of COVID, the scare. But not in 2019. There is absolutely no accounting for the postal vote doubling in 2019. Because look, in 2017, you're talking just 2 years earlier. There's the postal vote. It has doubled. Why? Why has the postal vote doubled? And, again, the graph showing how that postal vote swung Boris Johnson a landslide win. You can see in each little constituency, it's just a few votes that won him the seats. A few hundred. Maybe a couple of thousand. But the postal vote in each region covers it. Well covers it. We find out that, you know, Dominic Raab, Laura Cousins, BBC journalist, on national TV the day before the general election, is there telling us, oh, it's looking really bad for Labour. And Dominic Raab, oh, it's looking promising for us Tories. The postal votes come in. Oh, I can't say much, but oh, it's looking good. They're saying it's looking bad for Labour. When them postal votes are not even supposed to be looked at until after 10:30 on the day of the election, after all the polls have closed. Howrose Limited, IDOX, all with direct Tory connections. Big Brexit man, wants a hard Brexit, probably has got huge bets against the British pound right now, ready to rake in the profits as the British economy collapses on the people, right? None of this, not a jot of this, has made mainstream news. Not a single jot of it. Not even a mention from our so-called Labour Party, where, you know, Starmer's too busy informing us all that Israel comes first. Right? I mean, I would like to know of any other opposition leader in any country, or any leader of any country, that can stand there and tell the people of his country that another country comes first. Will always come first. Another nation than the nation that he's supposed to be representing. This is how twisted and upside down and imbalanced everything has become. And meanwhile, we're subject to people like him. You know, at the same time, they were murdering indigenous people. They were burning women as witches here in Britain and Europe. You know, anybody, not just women, men as well. People who had maybe a telepathic power or the power of intuition. Who had a premonition maybe. People who instinctively knew how to heal people. Oh, they were all witches. Because, you know, we're not allowed to have any natural human attributes, are we? Anything that they don't understand, oh, that's witchcraft. That's what they were doing to women. What is he doing? Is it not witchcraft? Word spells that they'd cast upon us. COVID-19. Masks, vaccinations, social distancing, the new normal. Taking away our rights, taking away our jobs, taking away our incomes, taking away our laws, rewriting them. But do you understand, you know, this is the camel, isn't it? This is the camel. Solid, hard evidence. This is the camel. But what does the media focus on? Nats, 9 mail ballots is national alarm. Because it serves the purposes of power, doesn't it? And, you know, who has America got? That is the other thing that we have to look at. 2 men, both of them accused of sex offences, both of them with severe cognitive problems. I mean, Joe Biden, the Democrats have got to be having a laugh. Like we in Britain, the people of America, you have to accept, look, there is no... This left-right politics, it is just a facade, it's a show. They're all serving the same corporate interests. It's just that one side is saying, all right, you know, we'll manage to get a few crumbs to throw at the poor. at the working masses. But ultimately, they're all serving the same interest. They're two hands serving one body. We need to lose these political divides. Forget them. Forget them. You know, I mean, what was Trump's slogan? Make America great again. You know, maybe it's time to make America human again. Draft Jesse Ventura. Draft him. You know, it is up to the people of America. I mean, I was just watching James Corbett earlier today, and he's saying, you know, don't wait for your knight in shining armour to come along. You've got to do it, people. And he is so right. You do. It is up to you, the American people, to stand up for Jesse and say, we want Jesse on the ballot. No, we don't want to vote for Joe Biden. We don't want Trump. We want Jesse Ventura. The man has earned his right to stand as president for America. If anybody has, it's Jesse Ventura. All his life, he's a righteous man, a man of integrity, a man of compassion, a man of conscience, a man of care, a man of sanity. He knows what he's talking about. He's trained as a Navy SEAL, stood ready to give his life for his country. He served as governor. He's qualified in every sense of the word. And where's he? Oh, nowhere. One state has put him on the ballot, the Alaskan people. Well, it's time everybody in America followed suit and put Jesse Ventura on the battle and show these corporate party people that, look, sorry, we the people choose the President of the United States. We the people are sovereign on this land. It's our democracy, and we're not going to be bamboozled, battered from one side of the other. Like, you know, we put somebody so horrible there, so you're going to vote for anybody, literally, even somebody who's clearly got dementia. We'll vote for him to stand as president for the United States and leave America at even more greater risk. We need sense, sanity and stability. And I believe that Jesse Ventura could bring all of those things. But, you know, let's all join in the brigade of feeling sorry for Trump. And the British people, you know, accept this. Look, juxtaposition. If this can make MSNBC News in America, and all the alternative media are covering it as well, the right Trump supporters, okay, then where is the Britain's alternative media focus on this? Double Down News, what have you got to say about it? Nothing. Labour, what have you got to say about it? Nothing. Jeremy Corbyn, what have you got to say about it? You know, the Trump campaign, this is from the Trump campaign manager, is so disturbed about this. He has to tweet it. But you, Jeremy Corbyn, aren't disturbed about this, about the evidence here. The British people, you're not disturbed about the evidence here of a rigged postal vote that swung Boris Johnson an 80-seat majority landslide win. That he now has full control of Parliament, that there effectively is no democracy. He's just rolled out that disgusting criminal coronavirus bill, which legally has criminalised anybody so much as suspected as being infected with a common cold. That's the fact of it. That is the rock bottom fact of that bill. And nobody's talking about it. Nobody's talking about this. Oh, but this makes mainstream news. But this doesn't. This is where there's Donna on his own. I've been watching him for years on his own. Nobody's bothered about it. Because the corporations, you know, they aren't interested in the real causes of climate change, are they? You know, they forced humanity to live as we live. That's why they've killed all these people, indigenous people. They prevented us from living our eco-friendly lives, didn't they? forced us off our lands, destroyed our cottage industries, forced us into the factories, forced us to live to their dictates right up until this very day, put us on that treadmill of wage slave and doing as we're told. And now here they are to blame us for the destruction of the planet. But it wasn't humanity. It isn't humanity that is destroying the planet, is it? It's one corporation. It is one corporation did this, TEPCO. TEPCO, the same corporation that destroyed the natural sea barrier at Fukushima that would have protected that coastline from the tsunami. They destroyed it to build the plant. And when 10 years before the tsunami struck, they were advised to rebuild that seawall to protect the plant from a tsunami, they said no because they were frightened of scaring Fukushima residents. It might alarm the residents, they said. So they left it. One corporation destroying our Pacific Ocean and all the life within it to this very day. We're going through magnetic pole reversal. That does affect climate. Okay, because the Earth's magnetosphere is weaker, more of the sun's solar energy is getting through, more cosmic radiation is getting through. So we do have real problems about if the climate does get much warmer, of the Siberian ice shelf starting to thaw out, and major massive releases of methane which will destroy life. And methane is a far more serious global warming gas than regular CO2. To such a degree, you know, the amount of methane from the farming industry, if everybody in America gave up eating meat and just halved their intake of meat and dairy, it would be equivalent to garaging every single fossil fuel road vehicle overnight. But you see, nobody wants to talk about that. They want to talk about carbon tax. They want to make the average man on the street feel guilty for the fact that they've got to drive a car. The cars that, you know, they stopped our public transport, cut off the railways, you know, pushed everybody into buying cars, got us all making the blooming cars, get us all financing for the cars. Oh, suddenly we're all to drive around feeling guilty because we have no alternative. We cannot leave our jobs because we have no means to feed our children, because we have no land, when we can't grow food, we can't make our own clothes and shoes and everything that we used to do in the past. Because all of that power has been taken from our hands. And now they've amassed huge amounts of money in the Crown's offshore tax havens. Oh, suddenly, yeah, we're going to do this. We're going to roll out 5G. We're going to have total control over everybody. Everybody's going to be vaccinated. We're going to inject them. We're going to experiment on people. Because let's face it, we've got billions. We can afford to lose a few billion. And in fact, the more people we kill, the better it'll be for the climate. Aren't we fantastic? It's basically what they're saying. And you know, I've studied hard and I've studied history, and never before have I heard this figure, 56 million. They've never ever admitted to that many people inhabiting the Americas. They've never admitted that until today, when they want to use that number to justify murdering billions, according to the plan from the Georgia Guidestones, which we have to accept that is their guidestone. They want to reduce Earth's population to under 500 million. Maintain. Who are they to maintain anything? They can't even maintain life on our planet. They are destruction. And even if they succeeded in their plan, they're so evil, they'll just end up destroying themselves anyway. And you know, I was sat in tears today just listening to the family of this lady who has been murdered. I mean, it is just
At the
so...
center of this,
It is so disgusting. It is so disgusting. Breonna Taylor. What happened to her? You know, shot dead in her own home. Absolutely outrageous. And, you know, it is not the first person, is it? It just goes on and on and on and on and on. Children, people that are arresting suspects, you name it. And I know it isn't just black Americans this happens to. It has happened to white Americans as well. But considering that black Americans are actually a minority among the population of America, and you look at the amount of times that this is happening to black people, it's disproportionate. And it is reflective of inherent racism in the police force and in the system itself. But it seems nobody can do anything about it. Nobody in power can tackle the police force. Why is that? Is that because the police have all turned around and said, look, you do anything against us, you're not going to get any protection against us? Are the police force running a protection racket? To the extent that, yeah, you go and operate above the law. You can all deal in drugs. You can shoot whoever you like. We'll stand by you, we'll support you, as long as you've got our backs, we've got your backs. And that's why even more we need Jesse Ventura. A man who has his own personal power. Who commands respect because he's earned it. Who could and can unite America together, both left and right, can understand, look, there's something in there for everybody. But at the end of the day, he's a man who will serve and uphold the Constitution, a man who will serve and uphold the law, a man who will take a balanced look about exactly what is the problems on our planet. If climate change is being caused by the pole reversal, the magnetic pole reversal, then we're going to have to get prepared for it, aren't we? We're going to have to start moving people, getting ready to relocate people from sea fronts. We're going to have to start greening the deserts, aren't we? We're going to have to find ways to cope and survive. Because I tell you now, stopping driving our cars or paying a carbon tax is not going to make a jot of difference, because climate change happens on Earth regardless what we do or don't do. The only thing we can do is be like Noah and his ark and get prepared and save as much life as we possibly can. And that means embracing one another in a spirit of love and unity, and to stop this madness, this nonsense that is going on, and to get righteous, to remove these people from power, because we're not going to remove criminals from power by behaving like criminals ourselves and going on mad riots and rampages. Which, you know, the far right opposition will always instigate, use our protest to cause violence and to lay that slur against us. But one of the ways is by addressing things righteously asking questions. As Jesus said, be like a little child. Do not be afraid to ask questions, people, when you have solid evidence. When we have solid evidence. Ask yourself, why are these news reports, what is this all about, except a distraction, guiding people down a path of what? The gnat. Strain at the gnat, people. Look, here's a gnat. Have a fight over it. Have a squabble over it. But meanwhile, ignore the camel. Have an argument about which is the best or worst candidate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, and get all het up about who you're going to support. Meanwhile, you know, strain at the gnats. But meanwhile, swallow those camels. Okay? Ignore Jesse Ventura. Ignore the true alternative, of the viable alternative. Ignore that. Go for what's been pushed at you, what's been put on the shelf. Yes, sorry. No, sorry, you're not allowed to buy privately. according to your own intuitions and own personal favours. No, no, no. You buy what we put on your shelves, and we put Biden on the shelf, and we put Trump on the shelf. And you're going to buy one of those products. Well, no, actually, we're not. We're not. We don't want the political products. We want real people. America needs a real person. Make America human again. And, you know, I just want to finish here with a couple of friends who have been big supporters of mine on YouTube. And, you know, I haven't got a huge following. I really appreciate everybody that subscribes to me and shares my videos. Only because, you know, if the word is getting out there. But, you know, H. Thomas Ackerman here always has some amazing stuff to share. Insights, just very, very, very interesting man to listen to. And another friend here who he refers to, who H. Thomas Ackerman refers to, Hank McGurk, again, you know, has some really, really insightful stuff to share in his videos. Interesting to listen to. And that's just a start. And then you've got people like Last American Vagabond, James Corbett, you know, big alternative, very good, trustworthy news providers. Take time to listen. You know, we need to listen to each other, to be more accepting of each other, to be less judgmental of each other, to be tolerant of each other. Like, you know, we might not always say everything all of the time that everybody agrees with, but what do you agree with is what we need to start looking at. We're all different. We all have our own unique way of sharing information and doing our bit to save the planet, to save our society, save the constitution, to save the law, to save humanity. Because, as I say, there is no hope. And all you people who are part of the 1% or who are directly supporting their agendas, you need to understand that, look, they're on a very wrong path. Their thinking is totally out of proportion. Their plans are crazy. They are never going to save this planet. They will destroy themselves. They need to be called to account. You know, and Jesus, I mean, a discussion I had with Hank recently, you know, Jesus held a coin in his hand. There's people saying, well, who should we serve? And he says, well, look, one side of the coin is for God, and the other side of the coin belongs to Caesar. Give Caesar his due. Give God her due. Okay? So, today, what does it amount to? Giving Caesar his due. It amounts to holding him to account, these 1% criminal elite governing our planet, the coalition, to hold them to account now. That's their due. Where is God's half of the money? And what does God want money for? What does God need money for, if not to improve the life of our planet? And that includes the life of humanity. Not to stash God's money in offshore tax havens and use it to kill humanity, just so you can continue destroying the planet, living your criminal, lawless ways, to the extent where, you know, there will be no women and children, will there? In the sense, you know, you'll have your own factories to produce your own babies that you can abuse at your pleasure, and nobody's going to be there to say anything because there's no law. And anybody who watches my videos knows that I promote universal law of abundance and compassion that upholds all rights, human rights, children's rights, women's rights, animals' rights, plant rights, earth rights, the law, the constitution. Because we are quantum energies living in a physical body, and everything in this universe has to abide by the laws of physics. Otherwise, as a life form, it cannot survive. And there are laws for a living, intelligent consciousness that has free will. Because freedom comes with respect for those laws. The quantum energy within us, operating within this physical body, needs a law to guide us. Otherwise, we will destroy ourselves in exactly the way that we're destroying ourselves now. Criminals will rule us. People who do not like the law think, oh, well, I can do what I like. I don't need to follow universal law. I don't need to live with compassion because I want this. Actually, I want a child. I want to abuse children. I should be free to do that. Let me get myself a load of money and I'll be free to do that. I can make friends with people like Bill Gates who will help me take control of the world and control humanity. And through his agendas, I'll get even more access to children. You know? These children in Palestine, who's taking any notice of them? What is happening to them? Especially in Gaza. What is going, you know, so many terrible things are going on. And we've got Keir Starmer stood there for Labour after they've got rid of Jeremy Corbyn, who spoke out for the Palestinian people. Starmer saying, I will always stand with Israel. Well, I will always put Israel first. And I said, well, what about putting these children first? Where are their rights? What kind of people have as their best friend somebody that behaves criminally? We need to start asking those questions. What is America? What is America? What is Britain? What is Britain if we can swallow? If we can just turn a blind, casual eye to this? But meanwhile, the criminals of this world, you know, yeah, oh, strain at this gnat, people. Swallow this camel. Ignore your viable presidential candidate. Rise up, people. Please, rise up. Stand up for your rights. Stand by Jesse Ventura. I think it's the only hope for America in terms of unifying the nation, in terms of, you know, restoring true righteousness to America and creating an America that will uphold, will realise Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream. That was a dream not just for black people, it was a dream for all American citizens. It is a dream worth living, because let's face it, we are surely living the nightmare right now.